When it comes to Russian football, one name that always stands out is Roman Arkadyevich Abramovich, even if you're not familiar with his middle name. Since acquiring Chelsea in 2003, when the club was teetering the brink of bankruptcy, the 51-year-old billionaire has transformed it into one of the world's premier football clubs, winning a Champions League trophy and 5 Premier League titles. Now, the question is, how did he become what he is now? Well, the answer lies in the year 1994. 28-year-old Roman Abramovich was preparing for a potentially life-changing meeting. Despite having already made a small fortune and a name for himself, he was hungry for more. On a yacht in the Caribbean, he met with Boris Berezovsky, a wealthy man with significant influence in the Kremlin and close ties to President Boris Yeltsin. Together, they devised a bold plan to acquire the state oil company Sibneft for a fraction of its value. Through a series of rigged auctions, Abramovich bought 90% of Sibneft for just $240 million, paying only $18 million out of his pocket. While many know Abramovich best for his association with Chelsea, his wealth was actually built in chaotic, corrupt post-Soviet Russia. This was a time when business deals were often settled with violence, and Abramovich was deeply embedded in this turbulent era, becoming even a part of Vladimir Putin's inner circle. His story, marked by both terror and fascination, highlights his rise from humble beginnings. Born to Jewish refugees in Russia in 1966, Abramovich's early life was challenging. His mother died of a blood disorder when he was just 1, and his father died in a construction accident 3 years later. Raised by his uncle in Siberia, his early life seemed unremarkable. He wasn't a standout student and lacked notable talents. He tried various paths, including engineering, mechanics, and the military, but found little success. However, his entrepreneurial spirit and willingness to take risks set him apart. His first success came in the military when he stole gasoline and resold it at a discount. He later stole an entire train car filled with diesel, which gave him a small fortune to start legitimate businesses. Abramovich's early ventures included selling toys and rubber ducks, as well as some illegal merchandise like perfumes and deodorants. Despite his early successes, his luck ran out when he was arrested for stealing the diesel train. However, by then he had already accumulated some wealth. In 1991, as the Soviet Union was collapsing, he was released from jail after a few weeks, with his records conveniently disappearing. This marked the beginning of his true rise to the top. With the money from selling rubber ducks, Abramovich was ready to take his entrepreneurial ambitions to the next level. In 1992, at just 25 years of age, Roman Abramovich ventured into the oil trading and transportation industry, which proved to be far more lucrative and scalable than selling rubber ducks. By 1994, Abramovich had built a small fortune and a reputation as a savvy oil trader. However, he aspired for something much bigger. Recognizing the enormous potential of the oil industry, Abramovich sought a larger piece of the pie, especially as Russia was in the process of privatizing its key industries. The privatization process, though theoretically sound, was fraught with corruption and rigged auctions, allowing insiders close to the Kremlin to acquire companies for a fraction of their true value. Abramovich needed an insider to back him, which led to his meeting with Boris Berezovsky. Berezovsky, a wealthy man who had made his fortune in the automotive industry, was highly influential within the Kremlin and a key figure in President Boris Yeltsin's inner circle. Abramovich set his sights on Sibneft, an oil company. At that time, the Russian economy was in dire straits and the government was in desperate need of funds. President Yeltsin, facing declining popularity and a potential communist resurgence in the upcoming election, saw an opportunity in Abramovich's plan. Berezovsky would use his influence to rig the auction for Sibneft, allowing Abramovich to acquire the company for a minimal amount. Yeltsin would divert government funds to facilitate the purchase, and in return, Berezovsky would launch a new TV station to promote pro-Yeltsin propaganda. The plan worked flawlessly. The auction was rigged, with foreign investors who could offer much higher bids being discouraged from participating, sometimes through extreme measures such as the abduction of representatives. Records show Abramovich received over $140 million from government accounts, while he contributed only $18 million of his own money to acquire 90% of Sibneft for $240 million. Berezovsky's propaganda efforts were successful, and Yeltsin won the 1996 election. Abramovich's wealth skyrocketed, making him a billionaire and one of the most influential men in Russia. He had an informal agreement with Berezovsky where Berezovsky didn't officially own any stakes in Sibneft but received 50% of the profits. Berezovsky, confident in his success, did not foresee any betrayal from Abramovich, but this agreement would later lead to one of the century's biggest legal battles between the two oligarchs in a British court. For now, both Abramovich and Berezovsky were enjoying immense wealth and power. Berezovsky's TV station guaranteed political victories for those it supported, but Yeltsin's popularity continued to wane, and he was increasingly viewed as a puppet of the oligarchs. So the oligarchs, especially Berezovsky, wanted to choose a successor and eventually settled on a former KGB agent, Vladimir Putin. At the time, the oligarchs appeared untouchable and they believed that Putin could be controlled just like Yeltsin. They leveraged their propaganda machine and influence to secure the 1999 election for Putin. Initially, Putin seemed cooperative, but after his election, he made a drastic shift. He publicly declared his intention to dismantle the oligarchs' power, a move that was popular among the public who had seen these tycoons exploit a corrupt system to amass wealth while everyone else struggled. Putin summoned 27 of the most influential oligarchs and issued an ultimatum. They could keep their money and wealth as long as they stayed out of politics and didn't interfere with his administration. Some billionaires, sensing the change in tide, complied. Roman Abramovich was one of them. However, others, like Boris Berezovsky, couldn't accept this and began openly opposing Putin. Berezovsky even used his TV station to broadcast anti-Putin propaganda. But Putin, a former KGB agent, knew how to deal with dissent. Investigations were launched against non-compliant oligarchs, while those like Abramovich, who stayed out of politics, were rewarded with favorable deals. In 2002, an arrest warrant was issued for Berezovsky, forcing him to flee to London. Abramovich, seeing no further use for Berezovsky, agreed to a final substantial payment for Sibneft amounting to around $1.5 billion. Under Putin's rule, Abramovich continued to thrive, avoiding political entanglements and enjoying freedom in his business ventures. He moved to London, and in June 2003, he gained Western attention with his high-profile purchase of Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea was near bankruptcy when he bought it, but Abramovich's investment transformed the club into one of the most successful teams. In 2005, Abramovich sold his stake in Sibneft for $13 billion. After a period of relative quiet, he re-emerged in the spotlight due to a legal battle in British courts. Berezovsky, living in exile in London, had lost much of his wealth by 2012 and decided to sue Abramovich for $5 billion, claiming he was coerced into selling his stake in Sibneft for $1.5 billion. Abramovich's defense was straightforward. Berezovsky never officially owned any stake, he was merely a consultant. This high-profile case shed light on the secretive world of oligarchs and their wealth, with the media covering every detail. The court ruled in Abramovich's favor, but the trial exposed many of his secrets. He again came under scrutiny following the Russia-Ukraine war, with the West sanctioning him for his ties to Putin. Abramovich attempted to mediate peace talks with Ukraine, but this move angered Putin, resulting in a poisoning incident as a warning. Despite these challenges, Abramovich remains one of the richest men on the planet. So what do you think about Roman Abramovich's story? Does he inspire you, or do you despise people like him? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.